Really what I want to talk to you today about, how did we take Beano to become the fastest growing children's website in the UK? So if I can just have a quick show of hands, how many of you read the Beano? Oh, I like you lot, there's lots of you. Actually, in the UK, 43% of people read the Beano at some stage in their lives. It's actually around 118 million worldwide. We've also got huge awareness, not just with kids, but with adults as well. And the trust scores, in an age where parents are just not trusting the media to be a safe place for their kids. Think about YouTube. 78% of parents will trust the Beano. So we knew we had an audience that really liked us, was aware of us, and wanted us to succeed. But, unfortunately, as everyone knows and we've been talking about, print has just been in decline for a while. So we built at Beano Studios about 3 years ago, we launched a new business. And the new business has really three parts of it. The first part, as we've talked about, is the character universe. So we still have the comic. And the comic has actually seen sales grow since we've been working on our digital. So it's really interesting to see that digital transformation actually can grow your legacy products as well. Within that character universe, as I mentioned earlier, you are going to see over the next couple of years a whole host of Beano characters recreated on the small screen and the big screen. The most prolific one at the moment is Dennis and Nash Are Unleashed. Those of you with small kids may have seen it on CBBC. It's just launched onto Netflix now as well, and it's in about 26 countries worldwide. We also launched our digital network. This is where we were brave. We had a comic that was hugely successful, massively well loved, but the circulation was in decline, and it was in long-term decline. So we were brave enough to say, well, we know kids are online, and I think I answered your question earlier, that actually it wasn't necessarily about the characters, it's about the Beano ethos. So it's about recreating what we did in print to create a really successful digital platform. And the final bit of the jigsaw is the area that I'm in charge of, which is Beano for Brands, which is basically how do we make money from all of everything that we do. So how did we take a heritage brand and make it relevant to kids today? Oh, I've just noticed there's a typo on that. There you go. Make our numbers look like this, and that's just showing lots and lots of lovely growth. This is where I start boasting now, and we've won quite a few awards. We tend to win around about an award a month at the moment. So how did we do all of that? Well, the whole point is, we took our mission statement, which is about make the world think more kid. So I'm inviting everyone here, start trying to think from a 4-foot-high perspective, because that's what the average 10-year-old is. We want to use kid-first insight to create a whole new platform for kids. That's our kind of external mission statement. Internal mission statement is obviously about creating something that gives kids, the opportunity to grow up in a safe, happy world as well. So we've obviously got the kids' safety at the heart of everything we do. So this is our secret weapon, and this is how we have really taken the kids' market by storm. And it's our Beano brain. And everything that we do is taken from a position of insight. It's the most important part of our journey. So we have our insight ecosystem, and I'm not going to take you through all of this, but I'll just talk you through a few of the points. The Beano platform. There are thousands of interactions every day across Beano.com. Those of you who know and work with kids will know that there's a huge amount you can't do. You cannot take any data from children, so it does make it quite hard to know what they're doing. But we can see from from first-party data, that we know, for example, on a Sunday evening, kids just aren't online. They don't go online. And we were trying to work out why that was. Could we do something about it? And actually, we just spoke to kids. And kids just say, Sunday evenings, it's about resetting. It's about spending time with our family, maybe watching Strictly or The X Factor, but we watch it as a family. We're not going to try and solve that one. We just say we don't launch anything new on a Sunday evening. We have on our site Kids love doing quizzes. They will answer quizzes till the cows come home. They spend on average about 8 minutes on each quiz. They will redo the quiz over and over again. If it's a personality type quiz, which Harry Potter character will I be? They'll redo it to try and find out what are the answers that would make me Hermione rather than Harry. If it's a knowledge-based quiz, they still do it because they want to be masters. They want to know everything there is to know. So we thought, great, kids love doing quizzes. We can get loads of information about kids by putting surveys on the site. Nah, kids are much too bright for that. They know we were after something. They weren't answering the questions. So our very clever dev team thought, well, hang on a minute, we could throw random questions into the which Harry Potter character are you, or which Disney creation would you most like to be? So we literally just drop crazy questions that we want to know the answers to. So in the midst of, well, they've got the mind pattern of I'm answering questions, we might ask them, who do you think is going to save the planet? Is it big business? Is it the government? Is it Boris Johnson? No. Is it your parents? Actually, nearly 70% of kids told us it would be kids themselves that would save the planet. We're also able for brands to throw in questions about this. We've asked questions from which book do you buy through to financial literacy. We do lots of stuff, so we can look at the Beano surveys and polls. We do lots and lots of UX testing. We do this every single month on our own platform, and we've now started to do it for other people's platforms as well. How do kids actually engage with the content that we're putting on there? They don't move through it in a way that you would think they do. We're all kind of, we're grown-ups. We've probably got a lot of expertise in knowing how do people go from one part of a website to another. Let me just tell you, kids don't follow that logic. They will just go wherever they want to go. So having UX testing really helps us really hone what we're doing. But what I really wanted to talk to you today was what we call our Beano Trend Spotter study. Now, my director of Insight tells me it's a longitudinal ethnographic panel. Okay, and what is that? Well, it is these, It's these little loves. It's 31 kids that we have picked from across the UK that we speak to over FaceTime every single week. They don't know this. Their parents certainly don't know this. We've profiled their parents into different segments. We profile the kids into different segments. So the kids, we profile them into, are they influenced by their mums, their mates, or are they the influencer themselves? We interview them, first off, we meet them in their home environment, and then we speak to them every single week. And we talk to them about, every week they get asked about what media they're looking at. What are they watching on YouTube? Who are they listening to? We also ask them a lot about what are they hearing in the news? What are the trends? What are the crazes that they're talking about? And we learn a lot about these kids. So just very quick introduction to 4 of the 31, and it's not chosen because they're the most interesting or photographic. Meredith she's a big football fan, but she hates pink, and her mum keeps trying to put pink things in her bedroom and she's throwing them out. Lily, on the other hand, is fairly stereotypical as a girl. She collects stationery and squishes, but she plays Fortnite. And for those of you who don't know, Fortnite is obviously one of the biggest computer games out there at the moment. Freddie is probably one of my favourites at the moment. Freddie has 3 Instagram accounts. Now this from a child who is 11, and don't forget you can't have social media under the age of 13. Now of his 3 Instagram accounts, his mum doesn't know about one of them. She only knows about 2. His mum now does know about the 3rd one, because obviously we told her, but Freddie still likes to think we don't. And Finley is the 12-year-old, plays basketball, loves old school rap, didn't really like Eminem's latest album, doesn't think it's that great. But they're engaged in the world around them. So my favourite quote, Jeremy Corbyn is antiseptic. It's come from Freddie. I told you Freddie was my favourite. But these kids, because they are digital natives, They know things that are going on in the world far more than we would ever imagine them. So it's not just that they talk to us about Brexit. When we ask them to name celebrities, every week they're asked to tell us about who they're talking about in school. Donald Trump was the most mentioned celebrity in the 12 months to the end of last year. Quick guess, who do you think trumped Trump? Theresa May. But whoever said Boris was fairly close. They are all fascinated by Boris, but they think he looks like a llama. And there's a whole other story about going on there. These kids are really, really socially aware. They've predicted the winners of Love Island, which I'm sure they shouldn't be watching, but happily Bake Off and I'm a Celebrity Too. So we really listen to what these kids are telling us. Try and get this clicker to go. But we don't underestimate them. This is Ali A. For those of you who don't know Ali A is a YouTuber. Ali A's channel, it's a very simple premise. He films himself playing video games and has millions of followers. And the kids absolutely loved Ali A. He was coming up every single week in who they wanted to talk about, who was one of their favourite YouTubers. Ali A went and ruined it for them. Because in their words, he started clickbaiting. He was pretending to have knowledge that he didn't have about their favourite games. So they've stopped watching him now. So just really, really be aware that these kids, this next generation, are not stupid. They're nobody's fools, and they recognise fake news. When we speak to them every week, we talk to them about playground analytics. What are the big things that are coming up? Who's going to be hot? What's hot? And every single month we produce what we call our map of hotness. If anyone wants a copy of this, just drop me a note, LinkedIn or hayley.granston@beano.com. This seems to be one of my favourite slides. How we do this is the colour coding is referenced around how many times that they mention a brand or a person. So if you're in green, you're always there. So Lego, Ant and Dec, Christmas and David Walliams are always mentioned. But hot changes. If you're not on here at all, your brand's just never mentioned. So kids at the moment, loving Marvel, adore Netflix, and because of Netflix, they're watching. Somewhere on there is Friends. They like those old retro programs that, you know, we grew up with. TikTok's on there. What's interesting is the one most people ask about there is Starbucks. Kids love Starbucks, and we couldn't understand it. So we had to go back and do a deep dive with the trend spotters to say, what is it about Starbucks that you love? And the reason that they love Starbucks is that feeling that they're getting a bit grown up, that they can go and hang out in Starbucks and drink frappuccinos with their friends, even if their mum is sitting at a different table. So we have this huge wealth of knowledge, and we use that knowledge to ensure that we're putting out content on our platform that really means that kids are going to want to find us. So I'm going to give you a live example about Fortnite. So back end of November 17, kids started telling us about Fortnite, and back then, unless you were a gamer, you would not have heard of Fortnite. We tested that, made sure it wasn't just going to be a quick fad that came in and came out, which Apex Legends, apparently in January this year, all the kids were talking about Apex Legends. February was never mentioned again. So we have to be careful about what is going to be a fad and what is genuinely going to be something of interest. So with Fortnite, we recognised what it was. We started creating content about it. And we were doing Fortnite quizzes, the Fortnite dances, and then it really only became into the public sort of zeitgeist around June of last year with the World Cup, where all the football players, obviously every time they scored, were doing the Fortnite dances, they were flossing. By which time, little old Beano, so Beano has 250,000 uniques in the UK. It's a small site, it's big for Kids brands, it's small probably by most people's standards. We were ranking on page 1 of Google every time someone searched for Fortnite, simply because we got in there right at the beginning of the trend and created credible content about it. We also recognise we can't just think about who our audience is now. We try and be future-facing as well. And the next generation is Gen Alpha. So everyone now starts to try and work out which generation they come from. But Gen Alpha were born in the year of the iPad, so that's 2010. The oldest of their cohort, it will be 9. I do think my design department deliberately tried to do something to absolutely ruin this presentation. Because if you look under the Gen X's, if they could come up with a picture of Margaret Thatcher that looked like that, why on earth some of these, next to Margaret Thatcher is test tube babies. These are the influences that affected all of us growing up. What we don't know is what the influences will be for Gen Alpha. So we know they were born in the year of the iPad. That's not Connect 4. I thought it was. Obviously Donald Trump leaving the EU, and even GDPR, and coming soon, the ICO's even more stringent data rules. None of us know how that is going to influence what this generation is going to be like. So we started a study into what Gen Alpha will look like. Now, obviously, the oldest of the cohort's 9, so we also had to look at the younger end of Gen Z, so we looked at anyone under 12. We talked to our trend spotters about this, over 600 hours of interviews. We also created a semiotics study. For those of you who, like me, had no idea what semiotics was, it's a cultural inference. So, for example, if you're walking down a street and you see balloons hanging on a front door, you all instinctively know there's going to be a birthday party going on there. So that's semiotics. And we also did a big quantitative study. So 2,000 parents and 1,000 children we spoke to try and get their viewpoint. I never know if this is going to... Yeah. We ended up with 5 key behavioural themes about this generation. They're going to question everything. They've grown up in an era where everyone is shouting fake news, so they really, really want to know for themselves if what they're seeing is to be believed. They'll question everything. They also have a yearning for personal freedom. Their parents are the millennial generation. So the millennials were probably the first generation to grow up with stranger danger. These kids want to be able to go out and run to the park, play with their friends, probably lots and lots of things that their parents' generation weren't allowed to do, but my generation was. They want to get that personal freedom back. But if all of you think that all they do is spend all of their time on their iPads and on their phones, that's not what they do. Actually, they like making things, so they're getting inspiration for what they find online, and then they move that back into the real world. So what we've created for them is, we call it the boomerang effect. So they come to Beano, we give them loads of ideas of things that they can make, do, see, play with, and then we send them out into the real world to do that, and then they come back to us for more inspiration. This is also the generation that don't want to be told how to navigate. They want to be able to discover things for themselves. So, for example, I'm currently talking, very bizarrely, to a funeral home, because how kids want to find out about death is very different from how their parents might want to talk to them about it. And finally, in the last area, is this acceptance of individualism. It's not about what gender I am. It's about just being free to be who I want to be. So we asked kids recently, do you think boys and girls should wear the same uniform at school? And the answer came back resoundingly, I think we should be allowed to wear whatever we want to wear. It's not about being the same. They just don't recognise those differentials. And it's really interesting, one of the new characters we've introduced into Dennis and Ash Are Unleashed is Ruby. Ruby's in a wheelchair. Ruby also is a maths whiz. She's always on her iPad. She's the one that gets the gang out of all of the scrapes. We asked the kids, are I'll be quick. We'll ask the kids, tell us a bit about Ruby. The first thing they tell us, she's a maths whiz. The fact she's in a wheelchair comes way, way down the list. This is an infographic. We have a whole white paper about Gen Alpha. If you want it, do let me know. There's so much on here that I can't even begin to take you through. But if you start thinking about the most influential Gen Alpha, there'll probably be George, Charlotte and Louis of the royal family. Archie's on there, and probably most of the Kardashian grandchildren will be on there as well. We've worked with loads and loads of partners. And brands are now using us to help them. So we worked with the FA. The FA were launching a new app. They wanted to get kids into football. And they were like, how do we get kids into football? And the FA, I'm just hoping there's no one here from any football clubs, there may well be, but if you are, I apologise. But the FA were, when I first met with them, it's kind of grey, middle-aged white men sitting in a room talking about how they felt that they should target children. We did all of the research and the content creation for them, so I'm just going to show you a really short video, which is something we produced for the FA. Oh. Click again.
The FA approached Beano in need of a kid-first insight and expertise. They wanted to speak to a new audience, non-footballing kids who weren't competitively minded. How could Beano help engage them using their new app Superkicks as a tool? We wanted to excite a whole new generation, so we built the concept of Supercharge You by teaching kids aged 5 to 8 how to level up on speed, balance, skills, friendships, and knowledge. It wasn't about competing against each other, it was about harnessing the power they never knew they had. We made supercharged skill videos that powered up the Superkicks app, turning water bottles into battleships, cones into crabs, and kids into crocodiles. Plus, rainy day content like quizzes and drawing challenges are there to always keep those heads in the game. We regularly showed assets to our Beano trend spotters, a panel of real kids who feed back on creative and help us stay on point. Superkicks reached far and wide, promoted across the web. And how did the FA feel at the end? Supercharged. They recommissioned Beano as their Superkicks content and insight partner, continuing the programme well into 2019.
So if I leave you with anything about how our digital transformation has come about, it's because we put insight. We understood our audience better than anyone else could have done. We spent months researching kids in order to ensure that we got the website right. And the message I'll leave you with is kids are the untapped influencers. They're the ones that are influencing their parents and they're influencing their friends as well. So thank you.
Hayley, thank you very much. I'm sure there will be some questions, but as we are pushed for time, if you want to grab Hayley over lunchtime and have a chat with her, I'm sure there'll be people wanting to talk to you if you are sticking around. So thank you very much, Hayley. I appreciate it. So we're now going to be moving into the lunch break. We'll be back in here at 1:40.